It happened every year. On the same date, I would bake a small chocolate cake, carefully frosting it with tiny sugar stars, and I'd always set one extra plate on the table, just in case he came home. For 25 years, no one knocked, until that night, when the rain tapped hard against the window, and I finally saw that face again. Before continue, please subscribe our channel and like our video. My name is Margaret. Although most people in town simply call me Mrs. Holt. I used to be a school teacher, the kind who stayed after class for the quiet kids, helping them find courage in their soft little voices. I always loved children, but the one I loved most was my son, Ethan. He was born on a cold February morning, with a head full of dark hair and a cry loud enough to fill the tiny apartment I shared with my husband, Daniel. We didn't have much, a secondhand crib, hand-me-down blankets, but we had each other, and I thought love would be enough. I was wrong. Daniel wanted more. A big house, a nice car, a life that looked successful from the outside. I wanted simple dinners, shared laughter, and a safe home. And somewhere between those dreams, we drifted apart. When Ethan turned 10, Daniel left. He said he needed space to find himself. But what he really meant was, he'd found someone else, a younger woman from his office. He didn't just walk out on me. He walked out on Ethan. At first, I lied. Your father's working far away, I'd say, tucking him into bed. He believed me for a year. Then one evening, with wide eyes, he asked, "Mom, is he ever coming back?" I couldn't answer. That was the night Ethan stopped celebrating birthdays. Still, every year, I baked a chocolate cake, sprinkled with sugar stars. Those were Ethan's favorite. Even after he left for college, I'd bake it and place it by the window, a silent promise. Because a mother's hope never ages. When he got into university, I was so proud. The first in our family to go that far. I worked late, tutoring children, sewing for neighbors, saving every coin to help him pay tuition. He'd smile and say, "Mom, you don't have to. I'll manage." But I wanted to. It was my way of loving him. Then came Clara, bright, confident, from a family with money. One spring afternoon, Ethan brought her home. She walked into my little kitchen, glanced around, and said softly, "Oh, it's cozy." Her smile was polite, but her eyes said she was somewhere better. At dinner, I heard her whisper to Ethan, "You should move in with me. My parents have space. It's better than this old house." I pretended not to hear. But the following week, Ethan packed his bag. He kissed my cheek before leaving. "I'll come back on my birthday, Mom," he promised. That was the last promise he ever made to me, and even that, only with words. Weeks turned into months, months, into years. At first, he called every week, then once a month, then silence. I wrote long letters about the garden, the neighbors, the stray cat that visited. Sometimes they came back unopened. One day I found a photo online, Ethan in a sharp suit beside Clara. They looked happy. The caption read, "New beginnings." There was no mention of me. I found out about their wedding through a friend who read it in the paper. My name wasn't on the guest list. That night I stared at that lonely cake on my table, wondering if I'd loved too much. Or not enough. I still mailed them a handmade quilt, stitched with love. A month later, a letter arrived. It wasn't from Ethan. It was from Clara. "Dear Mrs. Holt, thank you for your gift. Ethan and I have decided to start fresh. We hope you understand. Please refrain from sending more." Items. I folded the letter carefully. No tears. Sometimes pain sits too deep for tears. The years rolled. My friends passed away. Neighbors moved. My world grew smaller. Quieter, but every February, I baked chocolate. Sugar stars. One candle. because no matter how old they grow, mothers remember children at their happiest age. One cold morning, a lawyer called. Daniel, my ex-husband, had died. Apparently, he'd built quite a fortune somewhere else. He left something for Ethan. And a tiny envelope for me. Inside, just a note. I regret many things. Tell Ethan I loved him. In my own way, even in death, he stayed distant. Then the lawyer said something that shook me. Mrs. Holt. Daniel tried finding Ethan. But we learned he moved abroad. Abroad? He hadn't just left me. He'd left everyone. That night, I sat by the window, staring at an empty street, for the first time. I wondered if he was gone forever. But when his birthday came, I still baked the cake. Some habits are stronger than heartbreak. When I turned 65, I sold the house. Too many memories. Too many empty rooms. I moved to a little cottage at the edge of town, with a garden. An evening sunlight that warmed the porch. I volunteered at the library. People would ask, "Do you have family?" I'd smile gently and answer, "I used to." But deep inside, there was always a tiny flame of hope. Not for an apology, just for a knock. One afternoon at the community center, a little boy approached me. 6, maybe 7, dark hair, bright eyes. He was helping his mother, a new volunteer. "You look like my grandma would have looked," he said, clutching a toy. I smiled kindly. "And what was she like?" He shrugged. "Dad says she loved stars. Stars." Something inside me froze. "What's your father's name?" I whispered. He grinned. "Ethan Holt." That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat by the window, like I had so many years before, listening to the rain. And then, 3 gentle knocks. I opened the door, and there he was, older, lines around his eyes, shoulders heavy with years of regret. But those same gentle eyes. "Mom," he whispered. "I didn't know if you'd want to see me." I reached out, touched his cheek softly. "I've been waiting." Every birthday. Tears welled in his eyes. "I was ashamed," he confessed. "Clara didn't want me to contact you. She said you'd hold us back, and when she left, I realized what I'd done. I wanted my son to meet you." The boy looked up at me, almost shy. "Grandma?" I smiled through tears. "Yes, sweetheart, Grandma." We sat in my kitchen, smaller now, but filled with the same warmth, and shared slices of chocolate cake with sugar stars. From that day on, they visited often. Ethan helped me plant flowers. Little Liam, his son, loved baking with me. Every February, we made that same cake together. One quiet evening, watching stars from the porch, Ethan whispered, "Mom, I can never undo what I did." I took his hand gently. "Forgiveness isn't about undoing," I said. "It's about understanding." He nodded, eyes shining in the fading light. Now, every year, when the chocolate cake comes out of the oven, I whisper a thank you for second chances, for patience, and for the love that waits, no matter how long it takes. If this story touched your heart, please comment and subscribe.